Hi, I'm going to be demonstrating the medieval braid called lace, well, I don't know how to pronounce it, daunse or daunce, or it's spelled various ways, D-A-U-N-C-E, or daunse, like the plural of when the sun comes up in the morning. This is the V-fell way to make it, which makes the exact same braid, upside down, I suppose. If I were making this the A-fell way, the way it was taught in the medieval documents, the structure would be exactly the same, but braided this way. Actually, once you open it up, it's a flat, basically it's just a flat square braid. Once you open it up, I don't know if you would be able to tell, because braiding at V-fell, on the inside of where you open it, you have W shapes, and on the outside you have M shapes. Whereas braiding at A-fell, on the inside you would have the W shapes, and on the outside you would have, or it would be the opposite, opposite of what I just said. And so once you open it, if you didn't know which was the inside or the outside, I'm not sure you would even be able to tell whether you turned it over or not. But it's the same structure. It's easier to do V-fell because you can use one loop per finger, and you don't have to double up on any of your fingers the way you do with A-fell. On one, it's an uneven braid. It's asymmetrical because on one side, because it has 8 loops, so an even number of loops is inherently going to be an asymmetrical braid. On one side, when you start braiding, you're going to be going through, on the left side, you're going to be going through 3 loops to take the transferring loop. It will be a 3-3 twill. That loop will go through 3 loops, and on the other side, then you're going to have 5 loops on the other side, and the loop you're taking is going to go through 4 loops on that side. So it will be through 4 on one side, through 3 on the other side, the whole way along. Then when you open that up, you have 2 different possibilities. You can, depending on, I'm going to assume that we start braiding, we start with our 4 loops in each hand, and that we start braiding on the left loops. So it will always, the through 3 is going to be on the left. That's a given. And if you did the one turned transfer on the left, the way I'm going to do it, and the way they do say to do it in the turn transfer, if you do it on the side where the taken loop is going through 3, if that's the side that gets the turned transfer, that will be the center of the braid once you open it up. When you open it up, that will be the center, and it will have a shorter leg of that W or M will be in the center. It will have 2 short legs as opposed to somewhat longer legs on the outside of the braid where the taken loop went through 4 loops. That's probably not very coherent, but the other way would be to turn it on the other side, and you would get a slightly different looking braid if you turned the loops on the side that the loop went through 4 loops. You would get a slightly different looking braid with a slightly longer 2 legs of the V or M in the center of the braid and the shorter ones on the outside. Okay, enough about that. So the way the moves go, V-fell, is you'll be doing something like the moves for a 9-loop braid on the right hand, and more like the moves for a 7-loop braid on the left hand. So it's also kind of a good way to get used to doing a 9-loop braid, because you'll only do those, the thumb will only get involved in the right side, which actually is awkward to show in this, for some reason, the way the camera is set up. So you load up the 8 loops such that you have, the colors are a mirror image on the 2 hands. So I happen to have loaded it up so that the red, it's A, B are red, and C, D are white on both hands. You could start the other way around. It alternates during the braid. And the first move then I will make is to move the right hand, since I'm going to first operate on the left hand loops, I'm going to shift my right hand loops up 1 position onto the thumb, which is hard to show in here. I'll show it on the left hand. I have another video that demonstrates this. So the 9-loop video, it's going to be hard to see this shifting on just the way the camera is. I'm sorry about that. So now I've freed up the right little finger, the D finger. It's going to go through 3 on this side, and this is the side that gets the loop gets the turn. This is a flat braid. That's all it is, a flat version of an 8-loop square braid. So this side will get a turn. I'm going to take the upper shank from above. You could just as soon, if you preferred, you could take the lower shank from below. I've been taking, the braid is part way along, and I've been taking the upper shank from above. That turns it. Shift, tighten. On the other side, now there are 5 loops. I have 3 left on the left hand and 5 now on the right hand. I'm going to go through the first 4 and take the thumb loop without a turn. That's going to be the side that opens up, the side that has the slit. Shift, and I'm back to 4 loops on each hand. Tighten. Through 3, over, shift, tighten, and through 4, through, meaning through the loop before I take it, shift. Usually what I say is to myself is turn and straight, so I would go, say, turn. I do remind myself, because it's easy to forget, it's straight. In the 15th century documents they would say reversed. This is reversed. And actually I don't know, unreversed? Anyway, not with no reversal. Noemi Spicer says crossed. It's true that after you turn the loop, the shanks have a cross in it, so that's what she says, that it's a crossed transfer. The loop has a cross in the loop after it gets turned. The shanks will cross each other. In the 17th century they said turn, and it really seems the clearest to me, so that's, in my brain, that makes more sense. So I say turn, straight. And what you want to see as you're braiding a square braid, a flat braid, is a square braid. Or maybe slightly cupped. What I'm seeing here, I have this attached with a loop, so it's very easy to lift off. What I'm seeing here looks almost, here we go, almost like a square braid. And it's good to check it, and here's the slit is developing on the right side, because that's the side that I'm taking the transfers without a turn. I'm taking them straight across. They don't turn, they don't connect. And later when I'm done, or actually now if I want to peek, I'll stretch these apart. And see my nice W's. The back are the M's. I thought I was going to say something useful here, and I forgot what it was. Oh, I know what it is. This pattern tends to, it looks pretty good here, but it really tends to slip. The fell tends to slip. I think maybe it's because it's a slightly asymmetrical structure. I don't know, but you want to watch this and make sure it is looking like a W and it isn't trailing off on one side and heading downhill and not looking like a W or an M anymore. And so check occasionally, and just one way to check, you don't even necessarily have to open up, is just to see if when you look on the inside part, the part that's split, if the little V's that you see that are the outsides of the W's or M's, if they meet at a nice point, if they look even. And if they do, you're doing okay, but if one is lower than, that one's starting to look a little lower, I think. If it's lower, you want to tweak it in some way, maybe when you're tightening, try and stress the tightening of the back, the lower loops, or even take it off. Reach up there, you can manually reach up here and tweak, you can try and tighten up a loose part. When I want to tighten up the bottom shanks, I tend to go like that. I don't actually even really know if that helps. But somehow, if you pay attention, you can usually keep track of that and keep it on track and not have one side slip down. But you might have to do a little fussing. Okay, so here we are. I know where I am, because always when there are 5 on the right hand, that means I'm going to take the loop on the right. So I'm going through all to take it. And whenever I have only 4, that means I'm going to operate on the left loops. I just always do it that way, and I don't have to worry about it. And that's the turned side. So I was talking then. I think I'm going to check and make sure. And you can check by sliding your fingernail in that slit that you've made. You can kind of feel if anything goes across it that shouldn't. So straight. Tighten. Turn. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not doing this slowly because I have demoed this in the 9-loop braid. This is just like it on the right side is a 9-loop braid. I'm not able to see the shifting very well, but that is shown in my 9-loop video. And on the left side, it's really like a 7-loop braid. There's no thumb involved. It's through 3 loops, and then you take the last one with a turn. So it's as if you're doing a square braid of 7 loops on the left and a divided braid of 9 loops on the right. And then you want to see it, you don't want to see it open, which it doesn't usually do with a 9 or 8-loop braid anyway. It usually does braid as a square or kind of cupped, which is good. And let's see if this is enough to, well, I'll get to less mixed up color over arrangement and through. Okay, so here is the braid. Pretending I was done, I would usually when I finish, I squeeze. It's the opposite. I squeeze, push the braid towards itself up and down the braid to kind of loosen the lengthwise tension of braiding, and that makes it easier to open as well. So I squeeze it together, push it towards itself, and then go to the side that opens and open that. And pull. If I've been braiding, I braid this fairly firmly. If you want to, you can vary your tension. I mean, it's totally up to you. And then sometimes I bend it all the way backwards even, too, since it's been cupped that whole time. I play around with it a lot after I braid it. This upper part of the loop I'll squeeze towards itself, too, just loosening up whatever tension it's gotten from being pulled as you're braiding. And wiggling, I grab the edge and pull out. This pulls it flatter. There. So that's the lace daunce or daunce. I really don't know how. And of course, they spoke a lot differently back then in the Middle Ages anyway. But there it is. It's a really nice looking braid. And very, very straightforward to make using piol braiding.